Yo, what's poppin', guys? Szyl here. Today we're taking a look at the Gods and Monsters collection. So first things first, we have the AUG Daedalus, which, yeah, has like a maze, because like Daedalus is maze. That's the whole design of the skin. Except it uses a super dark color palette, so you're never going to see this design in game, really. Really hard to see this if you're not the guy holding the weapon. And even when you are, you really kind of got to stretch your imagination to see this as a maze, since half of it's like cut off of the weapon. It's just a bad skin. I'm gonna be honest. It's probably a little bit better than stock, so I'll put in D tier, but it's a very little bit. So yeah. Next up is the MP7 Asterion, which has the same maze design, but big but here. Has a very nice color scheme of light blue and dark blue. Looks really nice, and despite you know this is a maze design if you really look at it, but in game you're just gonna see this is like almost some random patterns, and light blue, dark blue, and like a little bit of a lightest green. They just go together well. It's a nice color scheme. You're gonna basically be looking at this like a random pattern rather than a skin, but I wouldn't mind having one of these, so it's a solid C tier for me. Next up is the dual Berettas Moon and Libra, which yeah, it's dark blue with a bunch of random scribbles on it. Guess it's a bit better than stock, and probably that AUG that we looked at, but that's about all I can say about it. I don't know what this design is. Then we have the Nova with the same design, except it's like a little bit brighter, I think, and you can kind of see like some constellations type of stuff in the back here. You can see like a sun, some kind of solar system. I don't even know, dude. I don't know what's going on with this weapon, but the color seems somewhat okay, so I guess it's a bit better than stock, but that's all I can really give it credit for. Yeah. Next up is the Tec-9 Hades, which is a bunch of Spartan helmets on that are white on a nice, really light gray background. I can say the color scheme is somewhat nice, very bright, very noticeable, and the mag actually goes with the skin for once. Give it credit for that. But otherwise, it's kind of just a uninspired design with a bunch of random Spartan helmets. So with a somewhat decent color schemes, I guess I really wouldn't mind picking this up. It's somewhat okay. Definitely not as nice as the MP7's color scheme, but yeah, it's okay. We have the P2000 Pathfinder, which I believe uses the same maze thing. You can actually see it's a bit like smaller, so you can see more of the maze. But this is fact new, and you can see it's like almost like smudged in the middle here. It's really hard to see the maze there. The one thing I will say is this color scheme is very bland. It's like black and like gray, so it's not the best. Almost looks like stock from a distance, but it does make the maze very, very noticeable. You can 100% see the maze design on here if you look at it. But if you don't look at it too hard, it almost looks like stock. So for that, put it above this stuff, but it's still in D tier. I think it's still a D tier skin. I would really have a hard time picking that up. Then we have the M249 shipping forecast, which has a very cool like solar system thing right here. It's actually the same design we looked at, but with a nicer color scheme of like a teal green kind of thing and a dark blue back. And yeah, having the sun right here with like the rings around it looks kind of cool. And otherwise, having the rings like here and here looks somewhat okay. Probably is pattern based, but this pattern looks somewhat alright. Wouldn't mind owning this. Put it at bottom of C tier. Noticeably bottom of C tier is like a good amount away from everything else. Then we have the Op Sun and Leo, which is the same design as the Moon and Libra, but like almost like a purplish blue, like a purple like front for all the random markings and the dark blue background, which in my opinion looks really really clean. I think this is like high key slept on. I know it doesn't have like a design for the barrel or the scope, but it looks kind of nice. I actually kind of like how it looks. So I'm gonna I'm gonna put in B tier. I actually picked one of these up myself. I wouldn't mind picking up another one. It looks kind of good in game. Yeah. Then we have the MP9 Pandora's box, which is a reference to Pandora's box, which is kind of like humanity opened up this box full of monsters that let all the monsters out in the world just out of curiosity. Um, and yeah, I mean this is like a skin full of just a bunch of different monsters. It very noticeably, these are like a bunch of different monsters, a bunch of them with different like faces and designs. Kind of reminds me of like an op paw if you will, which is actually one of my favorite skins. So I actually kind of like this one as well. I would not mind picking one up. I'm gonna put it at B tier. I'm actually gonna move up the AWP to an A tier because I actually do really like it. But yeah. Next up is the UMP Minotaur's Labyrinth, which is actually a different looking maze design. Looks a lot more 3D than the last one. The unfortunate part being it doesn't apply to the bottom half of the skin, so it's a bit of an unfinished skin, which I'm not a fan of. But it is applied to the back and like the whole top half, which is what you generally see in game. And it's very noticeably there. It's a somewhat decent maze design, but I don't think maze designs look that good, so I'm gonna put in the D tier. Yeah. Next up is the M4A1S Icarus Fell, and this thing's fucking beautiful. I don't even know what the design is. Like, I can barely tell what the design is, but just the colors are in all the right places, and it just looks really cool. It looks like if you've ever seen like one of those like blue lights in a dark room that let you see like invisible fingerprints and stuff. This reminds me of that, which is dope as fuck. The color scheme's great. The design is cool. Not knowing the design is almost cooler than knowing what it is. So, yeah, easy top of the A tier for me. I would definitely want one of these, but they're kind of pricey. So, yeah. Then we have the G3SG1 Kronos, which, yeah, it's a bunch of gears. Yeah, different colored gears, not even applied to the whole weapon. There's nothing applied in the middle section of the weapon, which is where you'll be looking. That's kind of bad. It's a half-finished skin with a very uninspired design. Probably slightly better than the AUG, but that's about all the credit I can give it. It's not a good-looking skin. Unlike the M444 Poseidon, which is fucking beautiful. It's Poseidon surrounded by some sea serpents or whatever, kind of evil-looking sea serpents. The color scheme is a very nice, like, deep ocean type of vibe. And it just, the look of Poseidon and the two little sea serpents and his trident and everything are just, it's beautiful, man. I mean, the front of the weapon is weirdly not colored. Everything else is, though. And they almost use the scratches they expect to be on the mag to actually work with the serpent head, which is actually really, really cool looking. I really want one of these, but they're $1,000, so I'm never gonna own one. But they're dope as fuck. Alright. A little bit less dope than, actually, I'd say it's more dope than the Icarus Fell. It's very close. These two are fucking phenomenal. They go very well. And I'm actually gonna push down the AWP back to B tier just because these two are so much better. So, yeah. And our final skin, and what people do consider somewhat of a highlight for this collection, is the AWP Medusa. And I can see why. Somewhat. I don't like that the scope and the barrel aren't colored. I know I'd kind of said that was a thing with the Sun and Leo, and it is. That's part of why it's not like an S tier for me, because that is the case for that. But the Medusa is supposed to be the highlight, and it doesn't have a colored scope and barrel, which kind of sucks. The design's pretty cool, but the Athenas looks very similar. It's like a purple in a later collection, worth like $10. This is worth like $2,000, and it's not even fully colored. Like, I would rather have the Poseidon. It looks 50 times better. At least the design on this is somewhat cool. It's like Medusa with all of her different snakes coming forward. And it does have a nice dark bluish finish, but I can't really say this is an S tier. If anything, I'm gonna move this Poseidon Icarus Fell up to an S tier, and then put the Sun and Leo actually in front of the Medusa, just because it's it's 100% more worth it, and debatably even looks nicer. I don't know why people like the Medusa so much. I don't think it looks that nice. So yeah, Gods and Monsters collection. A very, very dark blue, light blue kind of theme collection. Looks dope as fuck. As you can see, nothing's F tier. A lot of things are actually placed a lot higher on this tier list. So yeah, it's just a really dope collection. Hopefully you guys enjoyed looking at these as much as I did. Make sure to like and just leave a comment on anything that you kind of notice in this video or whatever. And I'll be seeing you in the next one.